Hello, I'm Dr. Alan Daws with the Paulding County School District, and we're here today on the campus of the University of Georgia. As part of our Get It in 10 series, we're interviewing the Associate Director for Access in order to give our students a little bit more knowledge about how to apply and get enrolled to the University of Georgia. Let's get to it. Hello, I'm here today with Associate Director for Access, Ms. Blanca Ramon, and she's here to tell us how to get into UGA. So let's get to it. So how do our kids in Paulding County apply to UGA?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in terms of applying to UGA, you want to apply through the Common App. It is available senior year of high school and opens up August 1st. And then you'll have two application types to choose from when you're applying to UGA, whether that be early action or regular decision. They have the same review process. We do a whole student review process where we're looking to see what you're doing in terms of your academics, how you're challenging yourself, what types of grades you have. And we're also looking at everything else outside of the classroom, including your essays and extracurricular activities. And I'll go a little bit more in depth as we go through the questions as well.
Awesome. Perfect. So what does your application review process look like? So once a student from Paulding applies, what does it look like on your end?
Yeah. So once a student applies on my end, I get the opportunity to review applications. That's just to give you an overview of what that looks like. Last year, we had about 43,000 students who applied. And then this year, we're looking at just under 48,000 students who applied overall. For early action, that was 30,000. And then the remainder was for regular decision that applied. And so I usually read about 2,000 applications a year. Our goal is to do about 50 to 60. Right now, we've been very grateful in that we have part-time readers that are able to help us read, as well as our full-time readers. And we've actually lowered that percentage down drastically, actually, to 36%, which means we are in a really good spot reviewing applications, and it's helped our part-time readers and full-time staff readers have a little bit of a slower time on those applications. But rest assured that all of the applications we review are thoroughly reviewed. When they get into our system, they're actually going to get at least 2 reviews, if not more than that. We have a great system where we have an academic team and a co-curricular team of readers. The academic team is going to focus really on the students' academics in terms of their transcript, how well they're doing throughout that time period. It's also going to focus on the challenge based on what's available in the student's school. And then it's also going to look at ACT and SAT. Now, our co-curricular readers, they focus on the application itself in terms of the extracurricular activities that you list. So maybe you've been a part of clubs, done some service learning, sports, etc. They're going to look at that, and they're also going to review the essays information on there. So overall, there's going to be at least 2 reads of your application. We also have what we call committee read. So we're human, and so we want to make sure that we have those checks and balances. And so what the committee read is essentially if we were to look at an application and maybe the academics were high and the extracurricular scores were lower, we would then send it to committee read to just re-review the application, make sure nothing was missed throughout that. And then ultimately, all of the files go into our file system. And thankfully, I don't actually have to click an admit or deny. That is not on me to have to do. Our team, our leadership actually looks at all the applicants as a whole and then determines a cutoff point and then decides which students are going to be admissible for that.
Fantastic. So what does your ideal application look like?
Yeah. Okay, so our ideal application, so we do a whole student review. So really we're looking for students who are going to be excelling both academically and personally. So in terms of academics, we want to make sure that they're getting strong grades throughout 4 years. So while we only get the first 3 years in terms of the transcript, sometimes we may get the fall grades as well for senior year. We are still looking at all 4 years to make sure that they're having strong grades, A's, B's, We also take in mind trends. So whether it's a positive trend, negative trend, maybe you had some trouble freshman year, for example. So it's not just about the actual grades. It's also looking to see how the student has done throughout that time. And then in terms of rigor of curriculum, we're really trying to see students who are challenging themselves based on what they have to offer. So ultimately, every school is different. It's going to offer different things. We want you to prepare yourself based on what you have offered. And so that way we can see that in that respect. Test scores are a piece. We always get the question. So test scores are a piece of our application, but ultimately it is a very small part of the application, and your academics in terms of grades and rigor of curriculum are going to outweigh those test scores. Now, I talked a lot about academics and what we're looking for in terms of that, letting us know that you're prepared and that you're intellectually curious. We're also looking at extracurricular activities and your essays and teacher recommendations. And what those tell us is, what have you been up to? What do you care about? What you've invested your time in? And then ultimately tells us a little bit about your work ethic. Are you able to balance multiple commitments? So all of that is taken into consideration. And because of that, we've actually moved to posting on our mid 50% profile. You'll actually see that we have leadership positions listed, like how many students had jobs, all of that matters to us. We're trying to get a better picture as to who you are as a student, not just academically, but outside of that. And the way I like to phrase it is really, when students are applying to UGA, we're not looking to fit our seats on campus in our classrooms. Of course, we want to make sure that you're great students, but we also want to make sure that you're going to fit our community of Athens-Clarke County and the University of Georgia community. So if we see you involved in your community doing things, whatever that is, sports, athletics, etc., we know that you're going to come to UGA and also be a part of the community that we have here.
Fantastic. So is there a common mistake that our kids should avoid when they're applying to UGA?
Yeah, it's a great question. So a common mistake, and I really like saying this when I'm going out to meet with high school students or counselors, is not taking your time to really thoughtfully answer the application and fill it out. There are lots of pieces for it. We want to make sure that you provide your best self, and going through the application, making sure you're explaining what extracurricular activities are. We have seasoned readers within our office. So like myself, who've been here for 10 years, we have other readers who started about a year ago. And so being detailed in your extracurriculars will give us an insight as to what it actually is that you do within that. So for example, beta. Beta is very common. We know that that involves some service. We also know that that's typically something that you're going to be inducted into, but perhaps you're in something that isn't offered at other schools. Or as familiar, you want to add those details in your application. And of course, you want to proofread your essays. So on essays, read it out loud, have someone look over it. It's important for you to take that time. Again, the application opens up August 1st, and you have either until October 15th for early action or January 1st for regular decision to submit it. So there's no need for you to rush through it. Take the time that you need to submit a good application to us.
Awesome. So I know a lot of colleges will sometimes say that they place different values on AP versus dual enrollment. Where is Georgia in that area?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in terms of UGA, we get this question a lot. AP, dual enrollment, we also get this question with IB classes and other classes that are offered within the state of Georgia or outside of state of Georgia. The reality is that we are going to treat AP and dual enrollment courses exactly the same. We see the value in them. We know that they're rigorous, whether it's AP or dual enrollment. What you want to take into consideration is what is offered at your school. Some schools don't have AP opportunities, and so dual enrollment is a great option for them. Other schools offer a mix. They have AP and dual enrollment. Or a plethora, maybe limited APs. You just want to take in mind what's offered at your high school and then work with your high school counselor to determine what the best pathway is for you. Ultimately, we're looking to see that you've challenged yourself across the core areas. So whether AP or dual enrollment, no preference for us. Just make sure you're challenging yourself across the core areas.
Awesome. Okay, so what kind of financial aid do you have at Georgia?
Yeah, we make it pretty easy here at UGA. When you submit your application for admission, your application actually doubles as a scholarship application. So there's no need to submit, right? There's no need to submit a secondary application for the majority of scholarships that are offered. You actually go to our admissions website and type in afford or scholarships, and you'll pull that information up. It'll give you a brief description. If it doesn't have a link, it means that you are already being considered for it. There are only a few that you have to submit a separate application for, and that's why I say majority. And those are our most prestigious scholarships. So those are called Foundation Fellowship. You want to make sure that you look to our honors college to see what their requirements are. And it does require a separate application, but the majority, you're going to be considered for them.
Awesome. Well, one final question. What is one thing you'd like to make our students aware of before they apply to Georgia?
Yeah. So I get the question a lot when I'm on the road on what exactly do I need to get into UGA? Typically, I get this senior year, right? I'm out on the road listening to students. And I always say, remember to be authentic to yourself. Remember that you don't want to compare yourself to someone else in this journey. This is your journey. You tell me what you want me to learn about you through the application. We don't actually have an interview as a part of our application process. I'd like you to think about your application as an interview. So what I mean by that is if we were to have an interview, whether that be one like we're having right now, face-to-face or Zoom, and I were to ask you, okay, I see that you put that you're a part of robotics. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? You could explain that. On your application, I'm not able to pick up the phone and give you a call and ask you to elaborate on what you've provided on there. So take your time to really think of it as an interview. Submit what you want us to know about you. And if there's something that you have questions about throughout the process, reach out to us. We'd be happy to connect with you. That's what we're here for, to help answer any questions you have. There's a lot of myths out there about the process, not just for UGA, but for other colleges. So I really recommend that you connect with us, and we'd be happy to touch base with you and make sure you get the accurate information.
Awesome. Thanks for your time.
Of
really
course.
appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon. I'm Dr. Alan Daws with the Paulding County School District, and this was How to Get Into the University of Georgia. Thanks for your time.